Hi, everybody, and welcome to another discussion of some important information about copyright. So today we're looking at the anatomy of a Creative Commons license. If you've been with us during some other videos that we have available for you, we have talked about different ways to use Creative Commons, and today we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about those licenses. So you have probably been to the Creative Commons website. It's something that we've always recommended, but maybe you have your own work that you would like to license, or you want to understand the elements of a license so that you can make sure that the way that you're sharing it with your students or with your public is correct and is fair. Obviously, we have to have a licensed image of a kitten because this is the internet and it's what, mostly kittens at this point. All right, so there are three different layers of a license. And a lot of the things we're going to talk about today, it's going to sound a little complicated. I will have these PowerPoints available on the library's website, so you can click on them for more information, or of course, always just come talk to me and I will help walk you through whatever you need. So the three layers of a license: the lawyer readable legal code, the human readable deed, and then the machine readable code. Now, when you've seen the Creative Commons licenses, they have that different information represented in words and in the images. So the really important thing is the lawyer readable legal code, because the legal code is what matters for to make sure that you're following the law and that you're using things correctly. The human readable deed, that gives you the information so you can quickly look at it and say, oh, this one, that's what I mean. And then the machine readable code, you can add that onto your website. Just make sure that you're sharing information as correctly as you possibly can. So there are four elements in each license, and you can see the images here. The first one is the BY license, or the BY, that's the attribution. And so that's the part of a license that makes sure that the creator of the original content, that they're given their proper credit. The second part to everything is the SA, the share alike. And this means that any attribution or any adaptation of the work, it has to be licensed under the same kind of license. So if a license is SA, then the way that you use it, it has to be licensed the same way that the original person did. The third one is the non-commercial license, and this is pretty obvious. We use these a lot in education, and you've probably seen a lot of these. And that non-commercial element, it prohibits the use of the content for commercial purposes. And that may be appropriate if you're the creator. And if you're in the education world, that's probably the one you want to go with. And our fourth one is the no derivatives, or the ND license. So that means that if a user creates an adaptation of the work, it can't be shared. Okay, that makes sense. Again, you can click on this link here on our PowerPoint slides for more information. If you have questions, just send me a quick email and I'll make sure that we walk through this so that you feel comfortable and confident in what you're using for class or what you're using for yourself. Okay, now this is the part that's going to sound, I'm going to say a lot of words. It's going to be a little overwhelming. That's okay. These are the 6 different kinds of licenses. So you can see here that they're those same 4 pieces that we just looked at in the last image. Now we mix those 4 pieces together to get 6 different kinds of licenses. I'm going to walk through this, and it's okay if you're not getting it all the first time. A lot of this information, it's on Creative Commons. That's what I'm linking to here, where it says click for more information. You can find all the description that you'll need on their website. And again, as I always say, just send me an email or drop by my office and I'll make sure that you again feel confident in your licensing. So what that mixing those 4 elements is, it kind of lets the creators, it definitely lets the creators say, this is what I'm comfortable with everybody else using. This is how you do it. All right, so our first one is Creative Commons, the BY. So that is an attribution license, and it lets other people distribute, remix, tweet, tweak and build on your work, even commercially, as long as they credit you. So it's absolutely the most flexible, the most accommodating license. This is if you really just want your stuff out there and you want to make sure that everybody's using it, that's the one you go with. All right, number 2, this is our Creative Commons, and it's an attribution share alike license. So this, again, it lets everybody, they can remix, they can tweak, they can build on it, even for the commercial purposes. They just have to credit you and license their new creation under the same terms. So yeah, that makes sense. All the new works will be based on yours and they'll carry the same kind of license. So any derivative that people take from it, that'll be allowed, that'll allow commercial use, and that can be very flexible. It's the license that's used by Wikipedia. It's recommended for a lot of other kinds of materials that would benefit from incorporating content from Wikipedia, or, you know, something that would be similar to that. So it's pretty flexible. I like that one. All right. Number 3. This one is the attribution that doesn't allow. Okay, number 3. So this attribution is non-commercial. So other people can remix your stuff, they can tweak it, they can build on it, but they have to be non-commercial. And although their new works must also acknowledge you and be non-commercial, they don't have to license it on the same terms that you have. That makes sense. Number 4 then is the attribution non-commercial share alike. So almost the same thing. Other people can remix, tweak, build non-commercially, but they have to credit you and they have to license their new creation under identical terms. So that's a distinction there between number 3 and number 4. And you can see, you know, they're both non-commercial, but one requires the license to be identical. All right, number 5. This is the attribution no derivatives. Now, this allows for redistribution, commercial, non-commercial, no problem there, as long as it's passed along unchanged and in whole, the whole thing, with credit back to you. So this is what you would use if you would like to make sure that your work stays as a whole, doesn't get changed, and that you are acknowledged as the person who created it. All right, and then the thing that builds on that is number 6. This is the attribution non-commercial, no derivatives. So this one is the most restrictive. We go from number 1 least to number 6 as our most restrictive. And it allows others to download your work and share them with others as long as they credit you, but they can't change it in any way and they can't use it commercially. So if you are the one setting up your Creative Commons license, you can go to the Creative Commons website and they will give you some assistance in kind of walking through and seeing which one of these works for you. Now, we do have 2 different public domain tools that you can use through Creative Commons, and one is the CC0. So the CC0 mark is a pretty common mark, and that is the idea that when you license it, you're just saying, just whatever. I'm putting this right into the public domain, enjoy it, have fun with it, carry on. And that might be a valuable thing that you're using. Now, in a library, especially, or for folks who are museum people, and I know several of you are, think about the public domain mark. So you would put this little mark onto your work, or not your work, other people's work that you definitely know it's in the public domain. And you want to be a little cautious with that because we do have some international work, we do some international students and things like that. So you want to make sure that that's only marked if you know that it's in the public domain everywhere. That's going to take a little bit of research for you to find that out, but once you do, that could be a really handy tool. Again, especially, you know, in a library when we're thinking about those very old works and very old things. Now, I don't have to track it down because you already marked it, and thanks for your help. Now, what kind of exceptions and limitations are there? So this is just a quick copy from the Creative Commons FAQ site. So the idea is that the licenses, they don't reduce, restrict, nothing, because copyright is federal law, as we have talked about. So if you are thinking, so if it's allowed, then fine, you don't need your Creative Commons license, but you do want to be thinking through that idea of that fair use. And I'm not going to go into that in great detail because we do have other videos about that, but remember, and I know I say this all the time to folks, do not just assume that because you're in education, you automatically have fair use. There are 4 different categories of fair use, and I definitely suggest going to this US Copyright Office. They will help you really walk through that. So you think about the purpose and the character of the use. You think about the nature of the copyrighted use. You think about the amount and substantiality of what you're using in relation to the whole copyrighted work. And you think about the effect of the use on the potential market or the value of the copyrighted work. All of those things matter. Plus, there are a few more that could be considered. So, you know, I always advocate caution when you're doing work with copyright. So what is the difference then between a license and a public domain tool? Now, we've looked through the elements of the licenses through Creative Commons. We've looked through the 6 different kinds of Creative Commons licenses. That's if you are creating a work, you created something, it's great, you want to share it, you would license it to make sure that you're sharing it across the world in the way that you want to and the way that makes you feel comfortable. Again, when you're thinking about using people's works, you want to make sure that you look at that license and make sure, oh yeah, that is correct. That is the way that I feel comfortable doing this. I know that I'm following the rules. I'm doing what the creator wanted. Those are licenses. So public domain tools, now this is what you can use to indicate you don't need a license. Once something is out there in the public domain, and of course, remember at different periods in the US history, different countries are different, it's all going to be different. So I'm not going to specifically talk about what is in the public domain. That's a different discussion. But that public domain mark, once something's in the public domain, go crazy. You can use it however you want to. That can be really helpful. It can really, you can find, you know, books and plays and videos and movies and all sorts of things that you can use for class, you can use in your work. Knowing that and knowing that it doesn't need a license and you can use it and share it however you want to, it gives you a lot of flexibility. All right, this was kind of a quick look over the licenses. As I said, I mean, this takes a while to absorb all of it, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. We can either go back, watch this video again, or read through some of the materials so that you feel confident. And as I said, always, you know, don't hesitate to reach out to me, send me an email, drop by the library, and you and I can work together to make sure that you are feeling confident for your class and for the other work that you need to do. All right, thanks so much. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.